On today's episode, I'm going to finish a project I started nearly 6 years ago. Well, better late than never. What's up, nerds? This is my Raspberry Pi gaming rig. I started this project in late 2019. I had a Sears Tele-Games unit that had been gutted out, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. There is a Raspberry Pi 4 in there. I have a thumb drive disguised as an Atari cartridge in here that holds up my library of games. And as far as I remember, everything, like software wise, ran beautifully. I was able to play games and everything on it. I had all the older consoles, I think up to maybe Genesis, Super Nintendo. I didn't even try to do the Nintendo 64 Dreamcast because I know the Raspberry Pi 4 is struggling. I mean, they still haven't gotten that 100%. Even with the FPGA, the Misters, it gets really, really close, but I think they're still having a little issues on those. But for all the older games that I play, the Raspberry Pi 4 is going to work out great. All the old classic home systems, plus all the older arcade games. We're talking probably from 95 back. Basically everything before you got into the hard drive based systems like Gauntlet Legends and Killer Instinct and things like that. All the games before that are going to run beautifully on this thing. So anyway, I'm going to give you a little history about this particular unit and what our plans are for this. This unit actually started out as one of these, a Sears Tele-Games video arcade. Now, most people will think, well, you see that it's a Sears knockoff of the Atari, when in fact, Atari actually built these with Atari components for Sears to be sold in their stores. The reason Atari did this is because they wanted to get these systems out across the country, available, worldwide with the Sears catalog and shipping and things like that. They had an instant, distribution set up when they partnered with Sears, and Sears got to brand it their own, sell it as their own. Everybody was happy. And yeah, the whole thing is basically an Atari 2600 just with a different paint job. This is going to be a little different. This little overlay here, the front part, the wood grain, instead of the Atari logo and the walnut grain, it's got like burled maple, and it says Video Arcade, and it's actually in the font of the Atari game cartridges, which actually I think looks a lot better than the original Atari. So I found the one that would, the one that would become this guy. I found it at a garage sale for a few bucks, and it was just the unit, no accessories, no power adapter, no cartridges or anything. So I bought it thinking I could, source the rest of it out eventually. When I got it home, I opened it up and found out that it was just wrecked. Water had gotten into here. I must have sat for a long time because everything under the deck was completely rusted, corroded, and shot. Everything from the RF modulator, all the connectors, components, the board, all the traces were just shot to hell. So I just gutted it and kind of hung on to it for probably about 3 or 4 years until I actually, got the Raspberry Pi 4. I cleaned it up and got everything taken out of it. And let me show you what's going on the inside of it here. If I can get this thing open again. Come on. It came apart off camera beautifully. It just needs a little encouragement here. But yeah, it fits together really well. Just 4 screws holds it together, but it fits well. So as you can see, I have the deck here, and it's all, I did all the pre-wiring for it. Man, that's a good job. Look at that cable management there. I remember this is the only one that functions, this on-off switch. There is a select and escape that I put there. Those are momentary. I was going to use those in conjunction with the menus on the Retrocade, RetroPi, which I think I'm running emulation stationing. Like, we got to fire this up and see. The difficulties are not hooked up to anything. The color in black and white isn't hooked up. I'm pretty sure they work. I'm pretty sure I tested it out. So I remember having to buy another momentary switch. I think I got it off of eBay for the on-off. And that was like going on 6 years now or so, maybe 6 years. And they were starting to get pricey then. Parts to repair these are starting to climb. I mean, I haven't checked it recently, but I can't imagine it going to get any cheaper. But then I kind of hope somebody may be reproducing these. Who knows? But we're going to test these switches out. But they've been pre-wired, so I'll have to test those, see where they go. Or, I mean, I know where they go. They just kind of end here in this little wrap. This is the hard drive. Basically, it's a USB thumb drive that I have disguised as a cartridge. I got an old, I'm sure it was like a Combat or some real common game that I just took it apart, gutted it out, put like a 512 gigabyte thumb drive in there. We'll take it out and measure it, and just fits in a slot and goes into one of the USB ports here. All the outputs on the back, you can see we have that's it, I think a micro HDMI and a power right there. Those all go to the back here. Let me slide it through, put this back on. And I kept, this was salvageable, the label, but it doesn't correspond with anything. On the back, I put 2 USB ports right there. This is the USB-C power adapter, HDMI out, and the speaker output. That being said, instead of going to a speaker output, I want to try and utilize, it's hard to see from the angle, I don't know if you can kind of see through it. There you go, 2 holes that were cut out. Now, there's no real official that I could find. There are places that say, yeah, they were definitely made to be speakers internally at one point, but Atari, it was too cost prohibitive because you need an external amplifier and things like that. The other school of thought is they were just ventilation holes. But if they were for ventilation, why 2 round ones on each side? Why not just make these slotted to ventilate the whole thing? So I'm kind of leaning towards these speakers. So what I may do is source some little like 3-inch, 2.5-inch, 3-inch speakers to put there, get a small amplifier, and have this be self-contained speakers, like I guess it was originally intended, and just use this monitor here. I found this yesterday at a red, white, and blue thrift store. It's Mark 25, which is ridiculous, but fortunately, this color tag was half off, so it was like $12.50, $13.90, $13, which is kind of what you're gonna find in the thrift stores nowadays. If you can go to garage sales, the junk stores, these will be like $4 or $5 all day long. But if Goodwill still sells these, or the chain thrift stores like Savers, if you got those, or City Thrift, places like that, they're going to be about $15 or so. But this model is Dell. It's a 19-inch. I forgot the exact model number. I'll pop it on the bottom in post-production. But what I love about this, there's a couple of things I love about these, because I've used these in the past for different projects. It's a 19-inch, but it's a 5:4 aspect ratio instead of a 4:3. This is more of a square picture. It comes in really handy when you're playing old arcade games, because when you're using MAME, some of the arcade games are horizontal like this, think like Street Fighter, games like that. But then you have the vertically mounted ones like Pac-Man, Galaga, and this one you can actually rotate it. And I know in MAME you can assign the individual settings per game, like speaker rotation, monitor rotation in there. And I think you can do the same in Raspberry Pi. I'm going to have to double check on that, but it is built off a MAME core, so it should be able to do that. But even if you had one of these that didn't rotate, if it was just, even a 4x3 is much better than, the newer 16x9s, because if you're playing an old school MAME arcade like Pac-Man, it's a vertical screen, you're going to have a small strip here of the game, and then these two big old, borders just doing nothing. And it's really distracting. The vertical or the horizontal scrolling, it'll look a little bit better, but you're still, because you're in that 16:9 aspect ratio, you're still going to have borders all around it too. It's going to be scrunched in. This will, you can fill up almost the entire screen with it, and it'll look a lot better. You're not going to get the, pixelation of a CRT, but then CRTs are becoming, the ones you can still find are hyper expensive now. They're getting ridiculous now. You used to be able to you couldn't throw them away. The dump wouldn't even take them because they were considered like hazardous waste or material because of the tubes and all kinds of stuff. Who knows? They wouldn't even take them. Thrift stores stopped taking them and everything. But now, just go on Facebook Marketplace and look up CRT. A Sony Trinitron, just plain old CRT with especially if it has like an S video input, they're going for well over $100 when 10 years ago they would have been free. It's crazy, but this is going to work out. And RetroPie has simulated overlays that they work good enough. They'll put a slight pixelation on it. Sure, it's not authentic, but it does kind of smooth out the crispiness of the sprites and things. It makes them look less blocky. And that's what I like about this. A couple of other features is that it has a built-in USB hub on this, which is cool if you want just to plug your like a thumb drive or anything like in there. If you have this going directly into your Pi, you could have another USB cable going in and then plug controllers in, do whatever. But one of the best features, I'm going to try and use this. I don't know if you can see it. Right down here is a 12-volt accessory plug, and that was for a set of external speakers that would clip on the bottom of this monitor. Now, it's 12 volts, but I can't find what amp rating it was. I know the Raspberry Pi uses a 5-volt, about 3 amp power supply, and you need that to power the Pi. And if you have cooling fans like this one does, and power stability with the Raspberry Pi is very important. It'll freak out and throw up error messages if it's not getting just the right amount of juice. I've used 12 volt, like 2-3 amp power supplies and a DC to DC transformer to get it down to the 5 volts, and it's been rock solid. I think on my Bluetooth radio and things like that, that's what I use. So we'll try that with this if we can. If not, I have a dedicated wall wart power supply. I just, I hate having multiple wires and cables and, 3 different power plugs coming out when we can just make one. That would just be great. So anyway, what else is I going to do to this? Speakers, make sure this works. See if we can get the switches. I might kind of, paint this up, decorate it somehow, make it kind of look like the fake wood grain 70s Atari aesthetic. Who knows? We'll see, because it just kind of looks like it's going to look like a mixed match of garbage with the Dell monitor and stuff. So I might try and pretty this thing up too as well. So with that being said, I think the first thing we need to do is fire this up, get it connected to this, and see where we stand software wise with it. And if everything software wise works, that's 90% of the hard part. And like I, I'm not gonna go into detail on how to do that, how to set up RetroPie, because I'm not that much of an expert, and it's going to be really involved, and I would just probably steer you wrong or say something stupid, and it would just take forever. I got all my information. There's a great channel called ETA Prime. That's where I kind of went to and just followed along how to do this. And I'll link him in either the description, or if I can do it in post production, pop up a little bubble somewhere here, and just search for RetroPie, and you put your Raspberry Pi version in RetroPie, and he's got tons of instructional videos that are great. It's just a wonderful step-by-step walkthrough on how to configure and do everything. All you have to do is just hit the pause button, do what he says, hit the pause button again, watch a little bit more, and he's got everything laid out, everything with all the links. It's wonderful. So that being said, let's fire this guy up and see what we've got. Okay, I've got my controller hooked into it. This has got power. It's hooked into the monitor. I've also got a USB keyboard and a mouse hooked in, so we can get into the menus and see what we can see. Let's see if it works. Oh, I forgot. I had a little LED indicator there on the bottom. That's pretty cool. Well, I saw it sync up. It's getting some signal because it's showing green right here. Don't know if it's just maybe I hid the BIOS screen or something, because I know when Raspberry Pi boots up, it takes a little while going through its little boot up screens. And yeah, there it is. I just must have disabled all of that. There it is, emulation station loading. Oh, wow, it still works. Loading system config. All right. We'll give this a couple of seconds. Hopefully it's not locked up or some kind of error. I don't remember it taking this long last time. I could be mistaken. Hell, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning, so who knows? The loading. If it takes a little bit longer, I'll. Oh, nope. Look at that. Oh, sweet. Okay. Yeah, Atari. I'm going to go just with the gamepad and see. Yeah, Lynx, ColecoVision, had Game Gear, Game Boy, MAME, Game Boy Advance, MAME, Master System, Genesis. Oh, I did have the Nintendo 64 in here. All right. Neo Geo. I guess that would run okay. I don't know. Regular Nintendo. DOS. I don't remember putting DOS box on here, but whatever. Turbo Graphics. Man, I had the original PlayStation. All right, there's RetroPie. I guess that would get into the configuration. All right. Genesis 32X, Sega CD, Super Nintendo. Atari. Okay, is there arcade? Is that MAME? Okay, that would be MAME. 4,790 games available. Yeah, it's a lot. I think for MAME, a lot of those are either duplicates, and you have a lot of like the Japanese like redemption games and things like that. A lot of weird stuff. You just got to thin the herd through. I think that's what I'm going to have to do is just clean house. Yeah, I'll show you 54 Master System games, 219 Genesis games, 111 games for that. Yeah, I got a ton of games for all the systems. So what we're going to do is, let me just go Super Nintendo. A select. So let's see if that works. Is this hooked up? No. No, I kind of definitely remember those not working. Maybe B? All right, B is the select. So I have to reconfigure that. Let's just go down. Just keep going. I'm going to get to Super Mario World because I know that's a common one and it'll look see how it looks. Oh, Star Fox. Oh, Star Fox 2. Yeah, I remember you download the ROM for it because it was never really released. That's kind of cool. Let's see. Super Mario World. There we go. I don't know why there's 5 different versions, but we'll just pick the first one. I got to see about getting that overlay on this. The aspect ratio looks okay. And no sound because I have no external speaker hooked into it. Okay. Oh, no, you know what I do? You can see that right there. It's got the overlay in the game. It's just not on the front end. Let me close this door before my dog ruins all the audio. There we go. So, zoom in. You can kind of see the overlay on it. It's not 100% perfect. And maybe they've updated the filters on it. And we'll see what's going on with. Let me reposition this a little bit better. Back it up a bit. Well, there we go. Let's see. I used to be good at this, but that was also 30 years ago. So that might be, yeah, I'm going to die like 5 seconds in. Yes, we know. What is controls? Or is this welcome screen just, you had to sit through it and it's unskippable? Yeah, it's probably just unskippable. Let's see if the controls are still jump and dash run. Okay. There you go, right off the edge. Boy, a superstar player right there. I thought it would just go against that wall. I was wrong. Dash. Boom. God. I suck at this. I used to be so good at it. What happened? Oh yeah. Old. That's what happens, Billy. So we're just gonna kind of take it and there you go. Mass murder of the turtles. Boom, get a little bigger. Come on. Sooner or later you'll hit one of these. And right off a cliff. Laugh. Laugh, mock me what you will, but you know, this works. Escape, I know it's not gonna work. Which button got me back to the main menu? No, that's a select. Any of these work to get you back? Nope. Well, one of them paused it just now because now it's not doing anything. I don't know what's going on with this. Let's see if I can use a keyboard. I can use the keyboard to play now. Just up, down, same. Yeah, I don't know what I did. So yeah, I'm gonna have to reconfigure this guy software wise. So that'll come at the end of the project. I want to get these buttons working. I want to get speakers in here. I want to get this cleaned up. It boots. It loads the games. I suck at them. So there's nothing we can do about that. Maybe that's why I put it aside. I built this thing, started playing, realized how horrible I am at them, and just in shame threw it in the back of my entertainment center. Well, but it fires up. You see if the power down. Oh yeah, power's down beautifully. It shuts off. That works. Okay, so what we're going to do now is clean up the sky, maybe decorate it, get some ideas on what to do with this and the bottom for it. And then clean this up. And it's really nice. It just got to get all the dust and gunk off of it. I don't think I'm really going to remodify anything. These buttons, I will go ahead and start testing them to make sure. This thing, it sits in here beautifully. I mean, it slides. There's a front slot, and it slides in there, and the tolerance is so nice and tight that it won't come up on its own, and that's a testament to their engineering and design and manufacturing. So it's really good. So yeah, we're gonna get the old fluke out and test all these switches, make sure they work, and then find out. Oh wow, I even labeled these old guys here. I don't know if you can see that. Boy, past Billy, yeah, swell guy for doing this. Yeah, they're all labeled. So we just pull them out, run continuity on them, test the switches. If they all work like they're supposed to, that's one less hurdle that we have to worry about. And wow, look, I'm just looking in here, and let me dismount this guy here. I have the original serial number tags that were inside. I think this one was inside the machine. The build date was June 26th of 1980. And this might have been probably on the bottom of it or somewhere where it didn't get full of water. But, let's show you the inside of this guy here. I'll move the thing. I just totally gutted it, and probably I'm trying to look for places where I took a Dremel tool to it. I don't think I had to. I think everything just kind of disassembled and pulled out. These right here are the screws that go into the lid deck right here. So you want to keep those. And I think there's 2 holes down here that hold, right here. Here and here that hold the front part in. Just 4 screws all together. But the Raspberry Pi, I used little plastic standoffs. I mean, it's got a kit from Amazon. It has like 1,000 of them in there, and they work like a champ. They're probably screwed in from underneath. I don't think I just JB welded or hot glued them in there. I've got some cable ties, some zip ties here with little sticky backs right here to hold them in there. Even color matched. I mean, black on black so they don't stand out like a fat kid in dodgeball. Damn, this actually looks professional. Did I do this, or did I pay somebody to do this? I don't know. I mean, I am surprising the hell out of myself. It is dusty and dirty. We'll clean that up. But boy, I gotta say, I am impressed. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. So this is good cable management. The thing fires up. We're gonna do a switch test in a bit. Okay, and then configure everything, and this will be hopefully idiot-proof project. But it's me we're talking about, so yeah, it won't. It's gonna end up, something's gonna go wrong and cost me triple what I put into this. So hang tight. It'll happen. It's not an if, it's a when, folks. It's a when. Got my trusty fluke here. Got some alligator clips on the terminals. And I see when we go to hit the escape button, it works, but it's kind of sticky. And if you can see this mechanism back in here, if I can zoom in, it's sticking. A little plastic piece that moves in and out. I do have some, let me zoom back out. Sorry about the camera. Some CRC multi-purpose precision lubricant for electrical. So what we're going to do, maybe spray a little bit of that in there and see if that may loosen it up a little bit. Can't hurt. Just kind of give it a couple of squirts in there. Work it around a little bit. I don't know the exact. It seems to be a little bit better. Maybe if I work a little bit more, it'll kind of work itself out. Yeah, it seems to be doing a job. It just takes a little bit of gunk, some cleaning out. Let's see if this other one is the same way. Yeah, this one's a little wonky as well. So we'll just kind of shake this up a bit, give it a couple squirts. Let's soak and just kind of work it. Oh yeah, that's all it took. So this one's still a little bit sticky, but this one's good. These are latching, so it's not going to be that kind of an issue with the on off, the color black and white. This one's a little sticky. I'll lube them all up. I got some of this label coming up here. Might have to re-glue that back down. Let's see the on off here. Give this guy a little squirt. Yeah, this stuff is really really good. CRC multi-purpose precision lubricant, the 2-26. Yeah, I probably got that from, I don't know, Home Depot if I got it locally, or Amazon. Yeah, that stuff works like a champ. This one, that's all it takes is you got to lube it up a little bit and just work it around. A metaphor for so many things, but this is a family channel. Is it? I don't think so. I don't know, but you guys know. Oh, yeah, it's good. Okay, switches seem to be in working order. Like I said, these are double pole, double throw. So if I wanted to kind of wire up anything else into this, like a normally on here or something, we could do that. I don't think I have any use for it, but you just never know. It's always available. Now, what we have to do, take these leads and then find out how I can get that into the headers. Well, I know how I can physically get these down to the headers in the Raspberry Pi here. I just have to find out which headers I would use and how to program it to recognize these as key switches, like from the arcade controllers, or if it's something programmable, if we can simulate a keystroke or something like that with this. I'm going to have to do some research and get back to you on that, so I can sound like I know what I'm talking about, but in all reality, just going to Google or AI or something like that and giving you a correct answer. But that's what's going to happen. Anyway, all the way back on the speaker side of things, I was able to find some of these. These are just about the exact size. This pair came out of a television that I found on the side of the road, tried to get working, and either the screen was cracked or it was beyond repair. I always salvage the speakers because these are usually really decent little things for projects just like this. Probably decase these, ohm them out, see what ohm rating they are, and then I don't know if I have a spare little 5-volt amplifier laying around somewhere. Excuse me. But yeah, once I know the ohm rating of these, I can hunt around and see if I have something that'll work. If not, I can always order something from Amazon for $1 or $2, and actually more like 7 or 8, and see what happens. But these look like they'll work. Just kind of maybe hot glue them, these posts here to this. Maybe hot glue some standoffs or JB weld some standoffs. That way we can just look a lot neater in there. Yeah, I figured, since past Billy went through the effort to make it look, somewhat decent, future Billy can return the favor and keep up the appearances that we know what we're doing. So hang tight. I think I found a better solution. While I was going through my bin of spare parts trying to find a little amplifier board to power those harvested TV speakers, I found these guys. These are Logitech little desktop speakers, but they're USB powered, which means they draw 5 volts DC at 800 milliamps. Now, the speakers physically are just a little bit smaller, but behind that grill, you'll never really notice. And also, the speakers out of the television were 8 ohm, where these are significantly less, probably like 2 or 4. I could take the amplifier out, hook them in, but they would never drive those speakers. So what I might do is just harvest these guys. That way, the speakers that went with that board will be together. I'm not going to be, using 20 different parts to do the same thing. So take the speakers out, put those in the deck. Maybe put the volume controls somewhere in the front or in the rear, depending wherever I can fit it in there. And we should be good to go for speakers. Don't worry about having to cut out a hole for those little tweeters or anything. These are, I mean, they're just mid range, but I mean, playing old video games, you're not looking for hi fi, experience here. It's going to be crammed in an old Atari. So come on. Anyway, let's gut these like a trout and see if we can get them to fit and look pretty presentable inside the Atari case. I've got the speakers kind of hot wired into the Raspberry Pi, the little 5 volt, it's kind of hard to see here, little 5 volt and ground pins right there, the GPIO pins. Had it going for a while and it did not get the low voltage warning. Usually there's a little lightning bolt in the corner somewhere saying, not enough insufficient power or something like that. So I'm going to put the microphone kind of close to the speaker so you can hear it in all of its glory. Oh, all right. Well, I still need a lot of practice with this thing. Anyway, the speakers seem to be working fine. And what I'm going to do now is gut these speakers and find a place down up in here somewhere for the amplifier board. And we can make it work somehow. I've got to clean this mess up a little bit, but we're getting everything back together slowly but surely. I've got the audio system all finished up and mounted. These actually were a little bit thicker than the original speakers, so I had to kind of shear some things off in here, some old supports that held this original circuit board that we don't need anymore. Move the little serial number badge over here. I'm going to get a little bit closer in so you can see. This was like a little column about this high with a screw hole that held the circuit board. Took a Dremel tool, lobbed it off. It was a big hole underneath that was exposed, so I just put some painter's tape underneath, filled it with JB Weld. On this side, it looks kind of rough, but on the other side, it's flawless. You can't even tell. Well, you can't because it's a slight discoloration, but who's going under that, really? I mounted the amplifier board right here. This is like a headphone out and I think a auxiliary input or something like that. We're never going to use these, so they just kind of sit facing out. I don't know. I just didn't want to disconnect them in case something went through there. You never know how these things are wired up sometimes. The volume is here. I'm keeping it cranked up all the way. I tested it, and even with it cranked up all the way, it's still not distorting, and it's still decent. And you can always control the volume settings in the software itself on the front end. So I'll just do that. The sound, the audio coming out of the headphone jack of the Pi going into this is the existing cable that is hardwired in. I didn't have the heart to cut it or anything. I just kind of coiled it up, zip tied it right there, and everything's good to go. Let me just give you a demonstration of what it sounds like. I guess what the good people at Atari had envisioned for these speaker vents here. So hang tight. Let me fire this sucker up and show you. I've got one of my all-time favorite arcade games loaded up in MAME on the Retro Pi. It's Space Harrier by Sega. Now, full disclosure, I've tried recording this segment about 20 times and cannot get the sound recorded right. I mean, I'm just using my phone as the camera, and I have one of these little inexpensive clip-on mics like this, and it does a decent job for the voice and everything, but it's horrible for picking up any other kind of like background noise or music because it's designed in conjunction with the phone to cancel out that stuff, and there's no real way to disable that. So I've tried, and as soon as I fire it up, the music cuts out or something like that, and it defeats the purpose. But I just want to kind of give you an idea of what it sounds like. You'll hear the effects and all. You might not hear the music, which is a shame because that's really my favorite part of this whole arcade game. So I'm going to clip the microphone onto the cable here of my USB gamepad and try to record this yet one more time, but this is going to be the final take. And if it comes out like garbage, understand in real life, it sounds really good. So here you go. Welcome to the family. Get ready. Okay, I might just cut this off here because it may or may not have picked up anything, but I want to keep going on this video, so hang tight. Once again, my apologies. I did the best I could. Still sounds like crap, but until I get crazy YouTube money, this is the best it's going to get, folks. So just bear with me. And trust me when I say in real life, it sounds really good. It just sounds like some computer speakers hooked up to the, Raspberry Pi. It doesn't have to be super high fidelity, but, it gets the point across. And the fact that they're self-contained in a console that tried to attempt to, I guess, in design and engineering, try to do this. I mean, it sounds good. I mean, in all fairness, it was designed for Atari games, which are just boops and beeps. So anything past the mid 80s where you had true stereo sound out of video games, it handles it just well. So that being said, I'm going to stick a fork in the audio. That's good. I'm going to focus my attention now on the select, the escape buttons, how to rewire that. Hopefully Raspberry Pi is not going to be a bastard about it and want all kinds of things, but it is Linux, so it is all kinds of things you have to do in configurations and all. So yeah, we're going to see how that goes. So stay tuned and we'll get Raspberry Pi, a RetroPie, and emulation station, hopefully controlled by these external switches.
Wait a minute. Strike that. Reverse it. Thank you.
It wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't have to stop halfway through and redo the majority of it. This time, it was the operating system, RetroPie, an emulation station. Apparently, the version I was using was old, outdated. I couldn't update the libraries for it to get the GPIO pins to work that would enable these buttons to work. So I was looking for it, kind of if any alternatives have come out since the last time, since 2018 or 2019 when I started this project. And there was another one called Batocera. I'll put the link down below. And apparently it's been really, really, really developed well over the last couple of years. And it is great. It's a more user-friendly. It's easier to set up. And Raspberry Pi and Emulation Station, they apparently can be tweaked out the wazoo. But you got to code a lot of stuff. There's a lot of lines you have to go, command line stuff. This one, it's all, graphic interface and things like that. That being said, I did have to get some coding done to get these to work. And for that, I fell back on AI to do that. Since I don't know much about coding for Linux and Raspberry Pis and things like that, and I bounced between the two, Grok and ChatGPT, I found Grok to be a little better at coding with the Linux stuff. I'll put some screenshots up right here, give you an idea, because your mileage may vary depending on what you use as your processor of choice. Whether it be a Raspberry Pi 3B, a 4, or a 5. They run on everything. I think you can even use it for the PC and stuff. I think it's all major platforms. Right out the gate, when you throw this on a Raspberry Pi like I did and fired it up, it comes preloaded with a couple of games so you can test it out. But I just plugged this in a USB port, this little Logitech game USB gamepad, and it found it. It mapped almost everything to the most frequently used keys, and it just worked like a champ. I didn't have to change a thing. Um, so from there, it was a little bit easier to tweak the code, I guess, to get these escape and select buttons to work. So, like I said, it took a little trial and error, but we got it to work. So let me show you exactly what Batocera does. I'm gonna power it on. The one thing I did notice is that it takes a little bit longer than I to boot up than it did with a RetroPie. I don't know whatever reason why. Um, I was able to customize the splash screen, which you should see in a couple of seconds. It's based off of a marquee I did for an old MAME machine, arcade machine I did about 10, 15 years ago. And I just had the file laying around in my digital archives and I decided to mod it. There it is for this project. So I guess this is the Retrocade now. And it takes a little while to boot up, like I said, but it brings you right to the systems menu. Now, what I do, you can store stuff locally on your SD card if you have a large enough SD card. I have a 256 gig thumb drive modded into this. So what you would do when you start it up, you plug that in. Well, you plug it in before you start it up. And there's a selection in the menu system to use external storage for all your files. And what it will do is it will actually format your thumb drive. And when you get that formatted, you can plug it into a PC or wherever your files are stored and just swap them in there directly, put it back in here, start everything up, and it'll automatically populate the systems like MAME for the arcade, Atari 2600. I have some Lynx ROMs in there, actually ColecoVision, see what those are about. Some Commodore 64 games I had growing up. I even put Intellivision on there. I never had one. One of my friends did. We played it a couple of times, but I never was familiar with the Intellivision system or the games. Some DOS games because you got to run Doom because everything's got to run Doom. TurboGrafx, regular Nintendo, the NES, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. It kind of works. It's not going to work nearly as well as it would if I had like an FPGA. But in all fairness, Nintendo 64 emulation has been notoriously tough to crack to get 100% working. So, but I have a couple of games on here I can play around with. Game Boy Advance ports. I think that's some more DOS ports. I never really went into that one. I don't know what Pi Games is. That's just up. I think it's more like custom, almost like Flash games, maybe. Who knows? Sega Master System. I had that as opposed to the NES when I was, a teenager. I went with that because the graphics were a little bit better, but unfortunately, you know the story that they didn't do a lot of third-party licensing, and it kind of tanked. I also have the Genesis, Game Gear, Sega CD, Saturn, which kind of works a little bit. 32, which kind of works a little bit too. I actually tried putting some Dreamcast on there, and it's not pretty. It will work in the sense that it'll load up and you can play it, but it's choppy. It's kind of a pain. So, Neo Geo, those work pretty decent. The original PlayStations work really well. But I want to kind of keep this. If you got a Raspberry Pi 4, especially, you want to keep everything like under like things that came out in like 94, 95 and below, like original PlayStation, Super Nintendo, Genesis, things like that. Even arcade games, you don't really want to get into the upper ones that, in the late 90s, early 2000s that use like hard drives and all, because sometimes you have to emulate the hard drive as well. And that can lag a little bit. So that being said, let me take you into MAME real quick. And I'm going to use these buttons here. Hit the select button. There it is. Gets us into our menu. I'll scroll down using the hand thing. And these have all been scraped. Batocera has a built-in scraper that works beautifully. It takes a while because I have thousands of games. But it'll do the screenshot, and it'll come up with a video and a little description of it. It's actually really cool. I'll just go to 1942 because it's close to the top, and a lot of people are familiar with this one. MAME, if you've used it before, you have to actually simulate inserting a coin and the start button. So automatically out the gate with Batocera, this is a coin. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I got to select it, get into it. That was actually my back. This actually works as an escape button too, but I'd rather use this because it's better. and it looks cooler. So here we are. It loaded up 1942. We're going to put in a coin and hit start. And automatically, like I said, right out the gate, as far as configuration, you can use your D-pad for this, or I can use the analog stick as a joystick. Now, unfortunately, the analog stick, when you press it in, it'll bring up the main configuration menu. I got to find a way to change that one because I have a tendency to kind of press these buttons down hard. So let's just get out of this guy here by hitting the escape button. Because normally with Batocera, you need like to assign one of these as a hotkey, and then the back button or the escape button here is to get out of the game itself. So the code I got from Grok, Nat just kind of simplifies it to where this escape button escapes out of all the games, all the menus, things like that. So it works really well. We'll hit escape again, get back into the main menu, and let's go to Atari. Select that one. Go to Adventure. And this one, we can hear what this was intended to sound like originally with the two speakers here. It's just going to be boops and beeps, but hey, there you go. And yeah, if you don't remember how to play it, it's been forever. Pick up the key, open the castle, down the key, pick up a sword, go find the giant duck somewhere around here. Die, duck, die. All right. Yeah, so, and I forgot, I know, like the secret hidden wall. I mean, you got to go find a dot in a maze, and that gets you to the Easter egg on this game. I don't know. Let's see. Let's get out of this guy here. And another thing, too, you can have in the options for each game, you can go into, there's tons of, like I said, there's tons of things you can customize. And one of them is the shaders. And I have all the shaders set to scan lines because we are using an LCD, or if you're using a high def television, if any of you try to plug a retro system into a high def system, you know it looks like garbage because the pixelation really shows up. The edges look really jagged. This puts a nice scan, pseudo scan line on top that kind of looks good. It's not going to be nearly as good as a genuine CRT, but for this, it works like a champ. So we're going to get out of this. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, Batocera is really where it's at. If you want to go ahead and, get into the retro gaming system, if you have a Pi or something like that, it's great. I mean, it plays, it attempts to play everything. It just depends on your hardware. If you ran this on a PC with a lot of processing power and a lot of RAM, you may get Dreamcast and N64 working like a champ. That's up to you. Like I said, your mileage may vary. So that being said, I'm going to call the Retrocade project done. Everything, save for a few little tweaks, is 100%, well, 99.99999% done. But I'm more than happy with it. It looks great. I like it. I hope you like it too. And I want to thank you guys for sticking it out and watching this video. And as always, everything's much appreciated. Keep watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. And you guys take it easy.